Hi, it's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading. It is for April 15th, and I'm reading 1 Kings 8 through 9. There's 2 chapters today. And so I didn't really acknowledge anything of the holidays. We are just past Passover now, and I think part of the reason I didn't acknowledge it is because I'm reading a little bit ahead. So it's actually only April 11th while I'm reading this, but we're past those the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the Feast of First Fruits now. We're on the countdown to Pentecost, the counting of the Omer, the 50-day countdown. So the Feast of Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks, is going to happen this year, May 27th to 28th. That's the eve of the 27th on our calendar. So, and what is it? Let me look at my calendar real quick. It happens, for anybody that wants to know, on, let's see, May 27th that's going to be the 5th of Sivan. Yeah, this 5th of Sivan, the month of Sivan on the Hebrew calendar, is the first day of Pentecost. So that's where we're at. Yeah, that's all I want to say about that. I can't say happy Passover now. It's gone, right? Anyway, you could say happy birthday to me, except we'd be late because I'm reading it on my birthday, but I'm reading for April 15th. So happy birthday to me. All right, chapter 8, verse 1. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel, with all the heads of the tribes, the princes of the fathers' households of the children of Israel, to King Solomon in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of Yahweh's covenant out of David's city, which is Zion. All the men of Israel assembled themselves to King Solomon at the feast in the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month. All elders of Israel came, and the priests picked up the ark. They brought up Yahweh's ark, the tent of the meeting, and all the holy vessels that were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought these up. King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel who were assembled to him were with him before the ark, sacrificing sheep and cattle that could not be counted or numbered for multitude. So this was a big to-do here. The priests brought in the ark of Yahweh's covenant to its place into the inner sanctuary of the house, to the most holy place, even under the cherubim's wings. For the cherubim spread their wings out over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covered the ark and its poles above. The poles were so long that the ends of the poles were seen from the holy place before the inner sanctuary, but they were not seen outside. They were there to this day. Excuse me, they are there to this day. How did I lose my place? Bear with me. Here we go. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 stone tablets which Moses put there at Horeb when Yahweh made a covenant with the children of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt. It came to pass when the priests had come out of the holy place that the cloud filled Yahweh's house, so that the priests could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud. For Yahweh's glory filled Yahweh's house. That is amazing. That is amazing. I'm going to reread that part. It came to pass when the priests had come out of the holy place that the cloud filled Yahweh's house, so that the priests could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud. Yahweh's glory filled the house. Then Solomon said, Yahweh has said that that he would dwell in thick darkness. I have surely built you a house of habitation, a place for you to dwell in forever. The king turned his face around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, and all the assembly of Israel stood. He said, Blessed is Yahweh, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to David your father, and with his hand fulfilled it, saying, Since the day that I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I chose no city out of all the tribes of Israel to build a house that my name might be there, but I chose David to be over my people Israel. Now it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. But Yahweh said to David my father, Whereas it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son, who shall come out of your body, he shall build the house for my name. Yahweh has established his word that he spoke, for I have risen up in the place of David my father, and I sit on the throne of Israel, as Yahweh promised, and have built the house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. There I have set a place for the ark in which Yahweh's covenant, which he made with our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. Solomon stood before Yahweh's altar in the presence of all the assembly of Israel and spread out his hands toward heaven. And he said, Yahweh, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or on earth beneath, who keeps covenant and loving kindness with your servants, who walk before you with all their heart, who has kept with your servant David, my father, that which you promised him. Yes, you spoke with your mouth and have fulfilled it with your hand, as it is today. See, I mean, that they're marveling over this. Wow. Here it is, the promise that, can you imagine the warfare in their minds? Like, would it really happen? And the times it seemed impossible. And like any prophecy, you couldn't see how it was going to play out until it happens. And then it's like, whoa, it's mind blowing. And so they're marveling at it and moved to prayer and, in this dedication and celebration. Verse 25. Now, therefore, may Yahweh, the God of Israel, keep with your servant David, my father, that which you have promised, saying, There shall not fail from you a man in my sight to sit on the throne of Israel, if only your children take heed to their way, to walk before me as you have walked before me. Now, therefore, God of Israel, please let your word be verified, which you spoke to your servant David, my father. But will God in very deed dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the heaven of heavens can't contain you, how much less this house that I have built. Yet have respect for the prayer of your servant and for his supplication, Yahweh my God, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your servant prays before you today, that your eyes may open toward this house night and day, even toward the place of which you have said, My name shall be there, to listen to the prayer which your servant prays toward this place. Listen to the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Yes, here in heaven, your dwelling place, and when you hear, forgive. If a man sins against his neighbor and an oath is laid on him to cause him to swear, and he comes and swears before your altar in this house, then hear in heaven and act and judge. Judge your servants, condemning the wicked to bring his way on his own head, and justifying the righteous to give them according to their righteousness. When your people Israel are struck down before the enemy because they have sinned against you, if they turn again to you and confess your name and pray and make supplication to you in this house, then hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel and bring them again to the land which you gave to their fathers. That's a big one. That just spoke a whole mouthful there. If they turn with their heart and confess his name and turn from their sin. That's redemption right there. So it says, if there is a famine in the land, and there is pestilence, if there is blight, mildew, locust, caterpillar, if their enemy besieges them in the land of their cities, whatever plague, whatever sickness there is, whatever prayer and supplication is made by any man or by all your people Israel, who shall know each know the plague of his own heart, and spread out his hand toward this house, then hear in heaven your dwelling place, and forgive and act, and give to every man according to his ways, whose heart you know, for you, even you only, know the hearts of all the children of men, that they may fear you all the days that they live in the land of which you gave to our fathers. Moreover, concerning the foreigner, who is not of your people Israel, that's us Gentiles, when he comes out of a far country for your name's sake, for they shall hear of your great name and of your mighty hand and of your outstretched arm, when he comes and prays toward this house, here in heaven, your dwelling place, and do according to all that the foreigner calls to you for, that all the people of the earth may know your name, to fear you, as do your people Israel, and that they may know that this house which I have built is called by your name. If your people go out to battle against their enemy, by whatever way you will send them, and they pray to Yahweh toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name, then hear in heaven their prayers and their supplication, and maintain their cause. I assume that's why Messianic, among others, but Messianic Christians pray toward the east, toward Jerusalem from here, from where we are in the west. If they sin against you, for there is no man who doesn't sin, and you are angry with them and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captive to the land of the enemy, far off or near, yet if they repent in the land where they are carried captive, and turn again and make supplication to you in the land of those who carried them captive, saying, We have sinned, have done perversely, have dealt wickedly, if they return to you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies who carried them captive, and pray to you toward their land which you gave to their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name, then hear their prayer and their supplication in heaven, your dwelling place, your dwelling place, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you, and all their transgressions in which they have transgressed against you, and give them compassion before those who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them, for they are your people and your inheritance, which you brought out of Egypt from the middle of the iron furnace, that your eyes may be open to the supplication of your servant and to the supplication of your people Israel, to listen to them whenever they cry to you. For you separated them from among all the people of the earth to be your inheritance, as you spoke by Moses your servant, when you brought our fathers out of Egypt. Wow, long sentences. Lord Yahweh. It was so that when Solomon had finished praying all this prayer and supplication to Yahweh, he arose before Yahweh's altar. Excuse me, I don't know why my voice gets scratchy when I start to read. It doesn't do that all day or all morning. Until I start reading, I apologize. So, again, it says, it was so that when Solomon had finished praying all this prayer and supplication to Yahweh, he arose from before Yahweh's altar, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread out toward heaven. He stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be Yahweh, who has given rest to his people Israel, according to all that he promised. There has not failed one word of all his good promise, which he promised by Moses, his servant. And that's one of my memory verses. Only it's a different version, and I shortened it. It just says, not one of his precious promises will ever fail. Not one. If God's made you a promise, don't you forget that. Not one of his promises will fail. So it says, there has not failed one word of all his good promise, which he promised by Moses his servant. May Yahweh our God be with us, as he was with our fathers. Let him not leave us or forsake us, that he may incline our hearts, he may incline our hearts to him, to walk in his ways and keep his commandments, and his statutes and his ordinances, which he commanded our fathers. Let these my words, which I have made supplication before Yahweh, be near to Yahweh our God day and night, that he may maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Israel, as every day requires, that all the people of the earth may know that Yahweh himself is God. There is no one else. Let your heart, therefore, be perfect with Yahweh our God, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments, as it is today. The king and all Israel with him offered sacrifice before the Lord. Solomon offered for the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered to Yahweh, 22,000 head of cattle, 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the children of Israel dedicated Yahweh's house. The same day the king made the middle of the court holy that was before Yahweh's house, for there he offered the burnt offering and the meal offering and the fat of the peace offering, because the bronze altar that was before Yahweh was too little to receive the burnt offering, the meal offering, and the fat of the peace offerings. So Solomon held the feast at that time, and all Israel with him, a great assembly, from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of Egypt, before Yahweh our God, 7 days and 7 more days, even 14 days. On the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the king, and he sent the people away, and they blessed the king, and went to their tents, joyful and glad, in their hearts, for all the goodness that Yahweh has shown to David his servant, and to Israel his people. When Solomon had finished the building of Yahweh's house, the king's house, and all Solomon's desire, which he was pleased to do, Yahweh appeared to Solomon the second time, as he appeared to him at Gibeon. Yahweh said to him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made before me. I have made this house holy which you have built, to put my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. Wow. As for you, if you will walk before me as David your father walked, in integrity of heart and uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, as I promised to David your father, saying, There shall not fail from you a man on the throne of Israel. But if you turn away from following me, you or your children, and not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and I will cast this house which I have made holy for my name out of my sight, and Israel will be a proverb and a byword among the peoples. Though this house is so high, yet everyone who passes by it will be astonished and hiss, and they will say, Why has Yahweh done this to the land and to his house? And they will answer, Because they abandoned Yahweh their God and brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold of other gods and worshipped them and served them. Therefore Yahweh has brought all this evil on them. At the end of 20 years, in which Solomon had built two houses, Yahweh's house and the king's house, now Hiram the king of Tyre had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and cypress trees and with gold according to all his desire. King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. Hiram came out of Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they didn't please him. He said, "What cities are these that you have given me, my brother?" He called them the land of Kabul to this day. Hiram sent to the king 120 talents of gold. This is the reason of the levy which King Solomon raised to build Yahweh's house, his own house, Milo, Jerusalem's wall, Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone out, taken Gezer, burned it with fire, killed the Canaanites who lived in the city, and given it for a wedding gift to his daughter, Solomon's wife. Okay, wow. Your daughter's getting married, so you go kill off everybody in a city and give the city to your daughter. That's interesting. Solomon built in the land of Gezer, Beth Horon, the lower, Baalath, Tamar in the wilderness, all the storage cities that Solomon had, the cities for his chariots, the cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build for his pleasure, in Jerusalem and in Lebanon and in all the land of his dominion. As for the people who were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, who were not of the children of Israel, their children who were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel were not able to utterly destroy, of them Solomon raised a levy of bondservants to this day. But of the children of Israel Solomon made no bondservants, but they were the men of war, his servants, his princes, his captains, rulers of the chariots, and of his horsemen. These were the 550 chief officers who were over Solomon's work, who ruled over the people who labored in the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of David's city to her house which Solomon had built her. Then he built Milo. Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he built to Yahweh 3 times per year, burning incense on them, on the altar that was before Yahweh. So he finished the house. King Solomon made a fleet of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. Hiram sent in the fleet of servants, sailors who had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. They came to Ophir and fetched from there gold, 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. Now that's the one that Pastor Ron Phillips from Tennessee wrote a book about called the Hiram Code, and he theorizes, he thinks he has, the scholarly proof that this gold that came from Ophir was America, or the Americas. That Ophir, that gold of Ophir. And so you can see in other places where they could travel. They traveled sometimes 3 years, which is, if I have it right, they say is how long it would have taken them to get here. And there's a straight pathway through the Mediterranean over, I think. Okay, that's what I remember hearing. So it's just to make an interesting point that it's possible they mined that gold all the way over here. They had the capabilities to travel that way. So that is the end of today's reading for April 15th, 1 Kings 8 and 9. Feel free to comment or even post links from commentaries you think are interesting that relate to this subject. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening today, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.